Bellevue, Ohio. And a very pleasant welcome to opening day. Happy opening day on behalf of all of us here at Big Play. And we're so proud to be a part of the Kaulig Company's entourage as we're outside the Thirsty Parrot in our stage location, and we're going to be broadcasting here all day long up until that first pitch. I want to get right to it. We're very pleased and want to thank Carlos Baerga for passing the baton on to me. So glad to have Carlos now part of our staff. Matt Foreman is joining us. He's Executive Vice President and Assistant General Manager of our Cleveland Guardians. And Matt, thanks so much for joining us. Happy opening day.
Bruce, it's great to be on. Happy opening day. It's a fun day of the year, right?
You're in the comfort of your office. Right now I'm freezing my, I won't say it, but great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. You know, last year we went into this season, and I think the consensus opinion around the country for sure, and even us too, we thought that this was going to be the weakest division in the major leagues. Turned out it was maybe the toughest or certainly the most well-balanced with 3 teams making it. And this year it could be a 4-team race. And I don't even want to discount the White Sox. They got to be improved, Matt.
Yeah, you know what? I think it may have been a surprise to many people last year how strong the division was, but certainly won't be a surprise to anybody this year. We'll expect the AL Central to be strong and competitive. Again, I think there are talented young teams who are on the upswing, each of whom has a compelling case to be made for making their team better over the offseason. And I think we expect it to be a competitive division. We're looking forward to being in the mix, and we know that we have our work cut out for us because of the strength of the other teams.
Well, plus there's a target on our backs now, too, after surprising a lot of people last year with the victory. Critics who said that we shouldn't have traded Josh Naylor, Matt, the way I have responded to that is my thinking is that you guys in the front office thought that the continued development of Manzardo, with the addition of bringing back Carlos, let alone now Nolan Jones teaming up with Noel, if that works out, will compensate from those for those lost numbers and maybe exceed them. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think anytime you make trades of a player like Josh or Andres Jimenez, those are really challenging trades. And at the same time, we're excited to provide opportunities to young players like Kyle Manzardo, who now has an opportunity to get regular time as a result of some playing time being freed up. And then, in addition to that, we're also excited about the returns that we were able to get in both of those trades, Naylor and Jimenez, where one of our goals this offseason was to fortify our pitching, both rotation and bullpen. And in those trades, we were able to acquire Luis Ortiz and Slade Ciccone, who, Ortiz has taken the ball twice, went 6 innings the other day, which was encouraging to see, and Slade's starting the year on the IL but making his way back, and we're excited for his contributions throughout the year. And as I mentioned, we wanted to fortify the rest of our pitching staff too, so we're able to sign guys like Paul Sewald and Jacob Junis in the bullpen, not to mention bring back Shane Bieber and sign John Means, who at some point hopefully will be able to contribute this year. So I think even though those trades are difficult, we know that we have to build teams differently in our market. In a lot of ways, the way we acquired Josh Naylor and Andres Jimenez originally was through a trade. And with those trades, to your point, we're able to provide an opportunity for Manzardo, who's off to a great start, and accomplish some of our other goals that we had in the offseason.
Everybody knows Antonetti and Cherney, but if you're unfamiliar with Matt, he's been with our organization a lot of years. He's originally from Philadelphia, went to Northwestern, actually was going to get into journalism. What a smart move on your part. But fell into baseball, and now he's in the tree of assistant GMs. You're eventually destined to become a general manager, being an assistant GM in Cleveland. You do realize that, don't you?
I'm fortunate to be in a great organization. I've been here now 13 years and worked with and alongside some some great people. And as you mentioned, the organization takes development really seriously for players, for staff, and that's something that I'm really excited to invest in for 200, 300 employees across the organization, 200 players across the organization. Truly, we believe in development, and that's so important to us.
You mentioned second base with the trading of Jimenez, and I'm happy for him. He's off to a good start with Mark and Ross and the Toronto Ball Club. But, I thought Brito was going to be the guy coming out of the camp. Arias beat him out. Of course, this is simply biding time, I guess, for Bazana. Comment on Brito and Arias, but I also want you to comment, Matt, if you will. Is it feasible that this Bazana at the end of the year could get a taste of the majors when we bring kids up?
Yeah, so on the position player front, I think there's a lot of attention paid to the second base competition throughout camp and determining who's going to play second base. And, we're excited for Gabriel Arias to earn the opportunity to get the first chance at second base. And at the same time, I think we know that over the course of a 162-game season, there are going to be ups and downs, and people are going to get injured. And we used 29 pitchers and 21 position players last year. So just to get through the demands and rigors of a long season, we're going to need full complement of position players we have. So Arias has gotten off to a great start thus far. His at-bat quality has been really good. He's played great defensively, and excited about his continued growth and development. And at the same time, you mentioned Brito, who's gotten off to a good start in Columbus as well. He's a switch hitter. He primarily plays second base, but he's got some positional versatility. Thus far, the reports after the first week in Columbus have been really positive on his at-bat quality as well. And as I mentioned, we used 21 position players last year, so it's not just Brito, but we know there are other guys who are going to contribute throughout the season. Whether that's Travis Bazana this year or not, I'm not sure, right? I don't think we put timetables on players. The one thing I know about Travis is that every day he's going to make the most of the opportunity that's in front of him. He's super growth-oriented. It's one of the things we so appreciated about him in the draft process last year. He knows himself exceedingly well. He's 100% committed to his improvement plan, and he owns it. And so whatever the opportunity is that's in front of him, he's going to make the most of it. And at some point, looking forward to him being a contributor for us.
I hear that it's amazing, as young as he is, he has such a astute knowledge of the strike zone already.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he's really honed in his approach offensively. He's a selective hitter who controls the strike zone really well. Knows the pitches that he can do damage on, finds his pitch and his count and looks to do damage on it. And that really translates to other parts of the game too. It's not just offensively. I mean, he's someone who's owned his defensive development, his base running development to be the most complete player he possibly can be.
The reacquisition of Nolan Jones is very interesting, especially because he's had much more success against righties, and just the opposite. Noel has had much more success against the lefties. Hopefully that works out with the two of them. But let me tie in your comments about them. How far away is DeLauder? I know he's hurt right now.
Yeah, so I'll start on Nolan. We're excited to be able to welcome him back to the organization, to reacquire him, as you said. Left-handed hitting outfielder who we're obviously very familiar with. He's got some impact potential offensively. He had a great 2023 season with Colorado, and then missed some time last year, dealt with some injuries, and he's fully healthy now. So we're excited about adding a left-handed impact bat to our lineup. Obviously difficult to part with someone like Tyler, but we thought it was an opportunity to trade from a position of strength or depth to add to a position of need. And certainly, Nolan strengthens and lengthens our lineup in a lot of ways. As far as Chase, he dealt with a core injury at the end of, or throughout, and then at the end of spring training, had surgical procedure. He's rehabbing in Arizona. I think we're hopeful that he'll be back sometime in the first half. this season. We're not going to rush it, right? These are the types of things where you want to do it the right way, take the rehab process diligently, deliberately, and get back to full strength. Because as we've seen, when he's when he's healthy, when he's on the field, he's pretty dynamic, and looking forward to seeing him get back to health and see what he can do this year.
So you're saying that he's major league ready. Had he not gotten hurt, he would have probably been on this roster.
Yeah, I think readiness is a funny term, because I don't know that anybody's ever, quote, ready for the major leagues, right? Wherever a player is, we hope to help them develop and make strides and get better. But I think he's played 6 or 7 games in AAA to this point. So it's not like he's got a lengthy track record in Columbus. At the same time, when he's been on the field, whether it's in AAA or the Arizona Fall League, he's performed well. And we're excited to get him back to health and see what he can do.
All right, let me talk to you about the pitching now, Matt. Certainly, everybody is very pleased to hear that Bieber is just, he looked great, I know, in spring training. He may be slightly ahead of schedule. Give us an update on him, number one. And, let's remember this. The Yankees didn't get Cole until the All-Star break last year.
Yeah, you know what? It's been so great to see Shane's demeanor and disposition and how excited he is. The rehab from a elbow reconstruction, Tommy John surgery, can be long and arduous, and he's got such a good energy about him. He's attacking every day with the same level of focus to get back to the mound. He's continuing his bullpen progression. Primarily in Arizona. I actually saw him this morning. He's in Cleveland for opening day for the ceremonies. He'll head back to Arizona shortly and continue building up his volume. As far as the exact timetable, I think these things are tough to predict, but we're really looking forward to getting him back at some point this year, knowing that a healthy Shane Bieber, there are very few pitchers better than him. And to your point, I think Shane's been really, really energized by the way his rehab has gone, and we're certainly excited about it too.
I have to ask you about McKenzie. He's out of options, and obviously, is he suited to be able to come out of the pen? The poor guy's been injury prone his whole career, Matt, even before he got his break in the majors. My goodness. But obviously it's got to be a concern that he's had a rough go of it.
You know what? Certainly Tristan, going back to the 2022 season, he was remarkable. Right there with Bieber as one of the headliners in our rotation. Made more than 30 starts that season, contributed in the postseason, a couple starts there, both in the wild card round and the DS. Obviously missed a bunch of time in 2023 with the injury, and then fortunately last year, although he spent time in AAA, didn't spend any time on the injury list, which I think was big for him, that he was able to get through a full season healthy, have a normal off season, come into spring training. And certainly I think Tristan wants to be a starting pitcher, has been a really successful starting pitcher, and where his opportunity is right now is in the bullpen. One of the things we've seen throughout spring training and to the start of this year is that his velocity is up quite a bit. He's averaging almost 94 miles an hour on his fastball, which is higher than what it was last year and even higher than what it was in 2023. So his fastball velocity has been restored, which I think is a really good sign for his overall health and the way he's moving. And I think one of the things that Tristan's working on is just overall consistency with his delivery and his movements, and then his pitch profiles and what that means for his ability to consistently throw strikes and be in the strike zone, not only with his fastball, but also his secondary pitches, curveball and slider. And so that's really where our focus has been with Tristan, redeveloping consistency and reestablishing strike quality, especially with secondary stuff.
I have to ask you about Logan Allen. When I first saw him, Matt, I liked him. He reminded me of a finesse lefty like an old Jim Cott or a Jamie Moyer. But how long a leash does he have now that he made the rotation to start this campaign?
You know what? Logan was another guy who, made his major league debut at 24 years old in 2023. kind of had a really strong season. Over 20 starts, over 100 innings, was a solid rotation contributor. And then 2024 didn't go, exactly the way he had hoped. He put in a ton of work in the offseason, worked really diligently with our pitching coaches to kind of restore some of the qualities that make him so unique, especially his unique release angle, his fastball quality, and then restoring some of the secondary stuff, both slider and changeup. And so, Logan's only made one start this year. I think we're looking forward to getting him back on the mound tomorrow. Weather permitting.
Yeah.
And credit to Logan for putting in the work this offseason to again restore some of the unique qualities. When he's on, his fastball plays above its pure velocity, and he's got two secondary pitches that can be effective.
Only a couple more questions for you, Matt. I'll let you slide. I know you have other obligations. I like the addition of Ortiz, particularly the way he pitched against us when he was with Pittsburgh a year ago. Off to a sluggish start, but obviously you got to give him some leeway. I think his upside, you can obviously see the potential. He's got good stuff. Your comment on him?
Yeah, it's funny. We have a special assistant, Dave Malpass, who's really he's a veteran evaluator, a trusted voice for us, and he says sometimes we tend to overcomplicate these things in scouting, but we don't need to on a guy like Luis. He's big, he throws hard, he's got a slider. There's a lot to work with, and sure, he's 26 years old. He's been in the big leagues for a year and a half, but he's got a lot of great qualities to start with and work with. Certainly his most recent outing was really encouraging. He went 6 innings, our longest outing of the year. Did give up a few home runs on sliders that he left over the middle of the plate, but this is a guy who can run his fastball up into the high 90s, 97, 98 miles an hour. He does have the slider, he has a cutter, he has a changeup, so he's got depth to his pitch mix. He's got a big, durable frame. And I think, look, like we talked about, with every young pitcher, we know that there's development left in the road and there are going to be bumps along the way. But our focus is helping him reestablish consistency, build his confidence, and help him be the starter that we know he can be. Like you said, when he pitched against us last late August or early September, it was a pretty strong showing for what it can look like when he's at his best.
Last question for you. I must confess, I am concerned about our bullpen, and not because of a lack of talent. I think it's the best bullpen in the major leagues. It was proven last year. I think coming into this season, it has to be tagged as the best bullpen in the majors. And for goodness sakes, Sabrowski, as Trevor Stephan, Henches, they're not even part of this pen yet because of injuries. But I'm concerned about the overload. I have probably made a mistake, Matt, in saying all we need to do is get the game into the 5th or 6th inning and let that pen take over. Well, I probably should have given that more thought. You can't consistently do that game in and game out. And maybe that wear and tear from a year ago, which worked splendidly, showed in the postseason, particularly against the Yankees. You know what I'm talking about here. We need more length out of the starters, even though this pen is lights out.
Well, I think we did have a historically strong bullpen in 2024. That group was remarkable, right? And carried our performance throughout the regular season, and then really in the postseason too. Although facing the Yankees, some of the best hitters in the world, some of the highest pressure moments. Sure, there are some pitches we probably like to have back, but we have a lot of confidence in that group. I think to expect the level of performance that group had last year is probably, I wouldn't say that we should bank on it, because it was the best bullpen in 30 years. At the same time, really excited about those guys coming back and adding to that group with players like Sewald and Junis, who I mentioned, plus some of the reinforcements that we might have throughout the season that you alluded to, whether it's Trevor Stephan, Eric Sabrowski, Franco Alaman, Nick Enright, Andrew Walters. there are a number of guys who aren't yet contributing and healthy in the major leagues, but could at some point this year. As I mentioned, we used 29 pitchers last year, 23 of whom threw more than 10 innings. So it takes a small army to get through a season. Now, what does that mean in terms of workload and residual workload and all those things? I'm not sure. What I can tell you is our coaches take it very seriously on a daily basis to make sure that each player is prepared and ready for the workload that they take on. Our players take care of themselves super diligently in their throwing program, in the weight room, in the athletic training room, so that they're in a position to withstand the rigors and demands of 162 games. Sometimes that means getting an out here and out there. Sometimes that means accruing a little bit more volume. But generally speaking, I agree with your comment that there's a symbiosis between the rotation and the bullpen. Ideally, we get both those groups firing on all cylinders, and so that's what we're going to work toward is having the best pitching staff we possibly can, the best run prevention unit we possibly can, and that includes our defense. Run prevention is part pitchers and part the defense behind them. So we're going to look to dial that in as best as we can as a collective.
I said the most important move that the ball club made last offseason, not this most recent offseason, but the offseason before, was retaining Carl Willis, especially with a rookie manager like Vogt, because in my mind, he's second to none as far as pitching coaches, and to have him next to Vogt, especially when you get into those mid to late innings, it's just invaluable. You can't. I just emphasized it all last year, and thank God we've got him, Matt. I'll tell you that.
So grateful for Carl. His track record speaks for itself, right? He's been the pitching coach for, I think, 4 Cy Young winning pitchers. Lived the moments himself as a major league pitcher. Has been a long time major league pitching coach. Kind of seen it all, done it all, lived it all. And I think Voter calls him a walking TrackMan unit. TrackMan, the pitch device that reads pitch shape and pitch velocity. All of that comes intuitively to him, and he can connect based on his lived experiences, and he's kept up with data and information in today's game in an impressive way. So we're so fortunate to have him. He is a calming presence for all of us, both in the game, I'm sure, for Voter, and for us in the dugout and the clubhouse otherwise.
Matt, can't thank you enough. Really appreciate you joining us here with our special pregame programming for opening day. Matt Foreman, Executive Vice President, Assistant General Manager of our Cleveland Guardians. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate it. Happy opening day. Stay warm.
I'll try, my friend. Thanks a lot. All right, Ryan Smith is with me, my producer, and the sun is actually out. If that sun stays out, Ryan, I won't say that it's pleasant,
peeking out, Bruce.
It's at least somewhat tolerable.
It wants to come out. It's begging as we're getting closer to first pitch. It wants to come out and shine for us, so I'm feeling good, Bruce.
Well, what I'm going to do is have you go to break because the sun is shining so much right now. I'm going to go over to my coat over there and get my sunglasses, believe it or not, and give them a thrill with those. Those are Guardian sunglasses, by the way. I got them at the outing a couple of years ago. Did you notice those sunglasses?
No, Bruce, I did not.
Oh, yes. The logo's on the side. I'll show it. And this is a Guardians scarf. I don't know if you check this out. Here. Let me show the fans. Cleveland on one side. Can they see that?
They can.
Okay. And then Guardians on the other.
Looking good.
And most importantly, it's keeping me as warm as possible, especially coming off a terrible cold like I've had. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, Bob DiBiasio, Vice President, Director of Public Relations for the Cleveland Guardians. Next, and our pregame coverage continues on Big Play. Great to have you with us, and we celebrate opening day. Happy opening day. Hi, I'm Bruce Trenton, along with my producer, Ryan Smith, and now with our Kaulig Company's location outside the Thirsty Parrot, left center field here at Progressive Field. Bob DiBiasio, the Vice President and Director of Public Relations, joins us. Here we go again, another opening day. Did you order this weather?
No, I did not, but happy opening day, and we're here on the shores of Lake Erie. You never know.
Shores of Lake Erie is right.
Yeah, whatever.
We're blocked a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it helps.
Whatever we're going to have to deal with.
I never thought I'd want the television lights to be hotter than,
exactly.
than they are right
Stay
now.
warm today, my friend.
Yes, indeed. I'm going
Hey,
off
can
a
you and
cold,
I
too.
play for that cup down there?
I
That's
know.
pretty
Isn't
cool.
that beautiful?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's a
Yeah.
gorgeous piece. Hey, I just interviewed Matt Foreman.
Yes.
First time I've interviewed him in all the years he's been with the organization.
Yeah.
I've never had the opportunity.
We'll have to do more.
He's great.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's a terrific young man, and he together with Cherney and Chris are really part of the triumvirate, the trinity, as we say, in baseball operations. Just a terrific, intelligent young man.
Yeah, interesting background, too. From
Yes.
Philadelphia originally, went to Northwestern, and was actually going to get into journalism.
Right, he was into which
I told him, I said, that was a smart move. You didn't do that. That's for sure.
But as you can imagine, a great writer, and he really does add, a whole different dimension, which I think is what Chris has tried to do philosophically in this organization, is bring different minds together and have everybody have collaboration and transparency. When you walk through, everybody's got a different opinion on a player and what his ceiling might be and how quickly he could handle the big leagues and when they should be elevated from AA to AAA and things of that nature. And it's like any good organization, any great culture, you're able to give your opinion, but when a decision is made, we are in unison when we move on.
Well, how many years now have you been in the organization? You had the 1-year hiatus when you went to Atlanta, I know.
Yes, this is my 46th with my beloved hometown baseball team, and 47 in Major League Baseball with 1987 being the PR chief of the Atlanta Braves.
And, of course, 94 was when we opened this facility. I must say, when you think of how many other ballparks were built during that time and have since been replaced with newer ballparks in other markets,
Yeah.
and this place has been kept in times, in modern times, because of the renovations, including this year, too.
And last year. It's a 3-year project when you also include the seats. We'll have one more off-season to really transform Progressive Field with all the blue seats. We couldn't do it in a 2-year span. I think having Dick Jacobs, who built buildings, you look along the skyline of Cleveland, Ohio, Dick with the Marriott, the Key Center, and the Galleria, and a number of other buildings. Having that background, having that ability to put his key architects and people in place had a lot to do with the fact that this place is still standing. 32nd opening day. It looks as good as it ever did from day one.
Yeah, it does.
That we made an investment in making sure that we continue to keep this a crown jewel in sports venues in America. And Jim Folk, from day one. And
You know what I think of him.
Yeah, and he just actually officially retired.
Oh, he did?
But was hired back on as a project manager for the renovations, and 30 years plus in this industry.
I got to interrupt. Jim Folk, the public doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, I've mentioned on occasion, He's one of the most valuable guys of any organization in professional sports.
Absolutely. He was our vice president of ballpark operations. He's the guy who had the blueprints to this building, came to us.
And Goodyear.
Yeah, and Goodyear, built the Goodyear complex, and came to us in our last year and a half of Cleveland Stadium and spearheaded with Dennis Lehman and that group to build this beautiful ballpark that we have.
Well, best to Jim. Give him my love.
I will.
I don't see him. But so how many, gosh, we go through so many of these opening days, and
Yeah.
you and I always wound up being so nostalgic and talking about the history of it all. Bob Feller, the late, great Bob Feller, is the winningest opening day pitcher in the Cleveland history with 4 victories.
Yep, and a no-hitter.
And a no-hitter, which
But
he had.
not a home.
That was
Yeah.
that was in Comiskey Park. My father was. I think I've told you.
Yeah, your father was at-
I'm originally from Chicago. My late father was at that game. It was at Comiskey Park in Chicago. It was the opening day for the White Sox, and they were playing the Indians. And Feller threw a no-hitter on opening day against
Yeah,
them.
much like today. He said it was a chilly
Oh,
day
dude.
when he tossed that no-hitter. Obviously, the only time in baseball history where every batter had the same batting average on day 2 as they did on day 1.
There you go.
0-0-0.
Yeah, sure. You don't even think of something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And then, the other thing, the crowds at Old Municipal Stadium. They're the biggest crowds in history in the American League. 1948, the Indians drew 73,163 against the St. Louis Browns. In 73, 74,420 against Detroit. And in 93, right before the team entered what was then known as Jacobs Field, 73,290. Those are ungodly sums of fans.
Yeah. Same thing with all-star games. We have the top 3 or 4 attendance records in the history of Major League Baseball all-star games in the 70,000s, and that old ballpark on occasion rose to the occasion of being the place to be. We're very happy we're in this beautiful baseball-only ballpark, and instead of still playing at a place like Cleveland Stadium, but the fans obviously would come out when Frank Robinson, it's pretty amazing. You and I talk history. 50 years ago to the day, which I always find so intriguing, 50 years ago to the day, Frank became the first black manager in the history of Major League Baseball, and obviously included himself, put himself in the lineup, and hit that memorable home run. But Phil Segui, our old
that
friend,
very attractive all-red uniform.
oh my goodness, yes. All
Head to toe.
Head to toe. Our old friend Phil Segui, the general manager, Frank went to visit Phil Segui before the game up in the office. And as Frank was leaving to head down, Phil said, "You're in the lineup, right? You put yourself in the lineup today." And Frank said, No, I'm the manager today. I want to concentrate on being the manager." And he goes, "No, I really think you ought to put yourself in the lineup. This is a special day. You should put yourself in the lineup." He originally had himself in the number 3 hole with George Hendrick batting second. George Hendrick didn't like batting second, so Frank put himself in number 2 and put George number 3.
my goodness.
And all of a sudden he hits a home run on a
to
2-2 pitch. That stuff is great, isn't it?
It's amazing. Well, there's also another tidbit of history that the fans may not realize. Frank Robinson did not want to be a player manager because he didn't want that burden of being the first black manager, knowing the pressure that would be upon that position.
Right. He always talked, though, about 1947 with Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby being a bigger issue in the game and in society than his being named. And he always said he would add to that, what's really going to make it interesting is when I get fired, will I get rehired? And then I'm a manager. Then I'm a real manager like everybody else who gets fired and then rehired.
Who was second? Maury Wills?
Larry Doby with the
Larry-
White Sox.
With the White Sox.
Yeah.
Right.
So Larry was twice, 11 weeks after Jackie Robinson. He breaks the color barrier in the American League. And then Larry always thought he was going to be the skipper of our ball club.
Right.
And when that did not happen, he was not real happy.
But he played some of his career with the White Sox.
Yes, he
too.
did. So he ends up becoming the
Right.
manager of the White Sox.
Right. You've heard me say this in the past. Why Major League Baseball doesn't pay enough attention? They don't ignore Larry Doby's being a pioneer, but and not taking anything away from Jackie Robinson. Everything that he accomplished is certainly worthy.
Right.
But how can you not give equal attention to Doby?
It's baffling in one sense, there's no question about it, which is why we make sure that as an organization we never forget the effort and the significance of Larry Doby. His entree into Major League Baseball so different than Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, people may not know, went to spring training with the Dodgers in '46 and played the 1946 season in Montreal, the AAA team of the Dodgers. Comes back and in spring training of '47 is good enough, obviously, a great player to be on the roster of the Los Angeles Dodgers in April.
Brooklyn Dodgers.
I mean, the Brooklyn Dodgers of April of 1947. Larry Doby's playing in New York with the Newark Eagles and is brought into the office after a doubleheader and said, hey, your contract was just purchased by the Cleveland Indians. Get on a train and go to Comiskey Park. That was his drum roll.
Right.
Was you just got traded, get to Chicago, and walks into a clubhouse as a second baseman when the team had Joe Gordon, who was a previous MVP with the Yankees. So his entree to baseball is a lot different. That's why, again, the significance of Larry Doby and what he did for this game in this city, we will always remember and make sure we celebrate.
And we have to talk about that era with a guy by the name of Bill Veeck.
Yes.
One of the most innovative owners in the history of the game, and let alone when he was the owner of the Cleveland Indians, and a minor owner, a shareholder, was a guy by the name of Bob Hope.
Yes, absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Bob Hope, a great photo of Bob Hope kissing, was it Steve Gromack, Lou Boudreaux, on the head, on the bald head after we won the 48 and the 54 American League Championship. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course Veeck employed the small player to, with
Goodell.
In
St. Louis.
Just amazing. And he and then of course he went to Chicago from Cleveland and was the first one to introduce an exploding scoreboard.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, but he did ladies' days. He did.
Yes.
He had a family section in the ballpark in the 40s.
Yeah.
Where people could bring their kids, and there were nurses available. Now we have, kids' land areas in every ballpark in America, and he was the first one to come up with that kind of idea.
Yeah, and of course, it's been such a long drought. Now that we lost to the Cubs in 2016, we have the longest duration of years that we haven't won a World Series. But then there was 54, and that team, of course, had set a record at the time which held for 44 years, 111 victories. That held for 44 years before the Yankees beat it. But Cleveland won that many games in a 154-game schedule, too. Let's keep that in mind. And that year, the Indians went into the World Series and unbelievably got swept by the Giants and a guy by the name of Willie Mays.
Oh, I know. That's the stuff when you read about it and you read books about it. you just keep shaking your head because that team was so remarkable. The thing about the 54 Indians that won 111 games, if I'm not mistaken, the Yankees won 103 and came in second. And of that dominant era of the 50s and early 60s,
right,
it was of the Yankees' dominance.
Yes.
It was the most games they ever won in a single season.
In that run,
and they came in second.
Unbelievable, because they played the Dodgers in 55 and 56, the Braves in 57, 58. They didn't make the White Sox. And 59,
so it's us and the White Sox.
The 59, it was the Indians and the White Sox that were the last 2 weeks of the season.
We lost out by 3 games on the last weekend of the season to the White Sox in 59.
And then the Yankees won in 60 through 64. Again, that's amazing, though.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure that 103 and 54 was the most in that whole run.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
And then, of course, moving into this facility, we would have been a big threat to win the World Series in '94 had the strike not occurred.
Without question. I think our ball club, there were guys, Carlos Baerga, who you were with earlier, crying when there was the stoppage in August of '94.
Right.
Crying in the dugout because they knew they had the creation of something incredibly special. Fans were starting to pour in. They were feeling confident.
The Browns had left.
Yes, and so they were the show, and they did not. The last thing they wanted was a work stoppage, and that's why I believe the ill-fated
I love you guys. Still gotta give that.
the ill-fated replacement player thing. And so when that was all done and we came back and playing, our guys were ready to play, where there were there was still a lot of animosity amongst the players.
Absolutely.
So I think we had the more focus with the leader in Grover, and that's why I think we went 144.
I was just going to say, in a lesson season, winning 100 games in only 144.
Remarkable.
Because of the season being delayed, and Grover finished third in the American League Manager of the Year.
It's one of the
How
biggest.
stupid was that?
One of the biggest travesties I can honestly say in my nearly 50 years in this business. People who think anyone could have managed that collection of talent and personalities. I lived it in that clubhouse every day, and there's no way. Grover was the right guy at the right time. You know, we won that division by 30 games. Think about that. We clinched on September 8th.
Amazing.
30 games.
Amazing. And, you know, the other thing that bugs me about that year was that Albert Bell didn't win MVP.
Oh, yeah.
His number, Mo Vaughn of Boston won it. But Bell's numbers were superior, and the writers hated Bell, hated him. And I will say, it was the only time in my career when I would be in the clubhouse or in the dugout and I was looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
I have to say that, Bob.
Well, yeah, Albert was a different guy, and especially when it got closer to game time, he'd get those blinders on. Don't you mess up with that tunnel vision
I know, but
that guy had to get after it, because he was a hard worker and a remarkable
I think the
player.
angrier he was, one of these guys, the angrier, more peeved off he got, it motivated him, and the better he was. But his numbers
50-50.
His numbers were superior to Mo Vaughn, but the statistic that really should have clinched it, and it shows how biased the writers were. He had 100 less strikeouts that year than Mo Vaughn.
Right. Yeah.
Think of that.
Think of that. For a power hitter. In today's game, power hitters, and even in those days, because Babe Ruth and Reggie Jackson,
all of them did.
Yeah, they all struck out a lot.
Yes.
Albert was a very disciplined hitter.
And I would say that I'm trying to think since then. I don't think there's been a lineup since then that maybe Texas that one year when they got into the World Series and lost, but I can't think of a lineup since then that I would put up against that Cleveland lineup on 95. However, I think it ranks with those Yankee teams from the late 50s, early 60s. The Pittsburgh team when they had Clemente, Stargell, Al Oliver, that was a great hitting team too.
Yes, indeed.
And certainly the Oakland Bashers of Canseco and McGuire. Those are the greatest power lineups of all time, Bob.
You'd get a kick out of this. When there's a lull in the clubhouse a number of years ago, and players are sitting around talking, and I'd walk in, and Sandy Alomar would call me over, and then in a loud voice, there'd be 4, 5, 6 guys sitting around talking, and he'd say, "Hey, Bobby D, tell these guys how good we were and how we would have kicked their butt."
Yeah.
And they would look at Sandy and go, "Oh, we could have beat that 95. You guys always talk about that 95 team, et cetera." And I'd say, "Gentlemen, this guy right here hit 299, and he was batting ninth."
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
you got to know
Right.
about that baseball team.
Right.
It'd be
And then
so funny, though, to get the ribbing going in the clubhouse.
And 97 was a totally different team.
Yes.
Because
Carlos
Lofton
was gone, yeah.
Carlos was gone.
Yeah.
Tommy had switched from third base to first base. Matt Williams was the third baseman.
Yep.
David Justice.
And Marquise Grissom.
Grissom, Fernandez.
Yeah.
It was a totally different team, and they came a lot closer to winning the World Series in 95.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're standing in the dugout in the bottom of the ninth in Miami Marlins Stadium, and, the Visqueen's going up, and Chad O'Jay's name's getting etched on the MVP trophy of the World Series, and then the sadness hit.
Yeah, and then, of course, 2016 with Tito and that club against, and a 3-game-to-1 lead.
Yeah, that's the one that really bothers you a little bit, is you had a 3-1 lead and a darn good baseball team and good pitching, and just not able to finish it off. But
fun reminiscing.
We've had our chances. It's the stuff that keeps us up at night still.
Well, I've always said money doesn't guarantee success or championships. Far from it. The Yankees, until last year, when was the last time they were in the World Series? The New York Mets have spent unbelievable amounts of money. What has it gotten them? Yeah. I remember when Short was the owner of Texas.
Right.
He spent enormous money
he did.
and never got anything to show for it.
Yeah.
So, and look at franchises like Kansas City, who won back-to-back pennants and then won the World Series that one year. Mid-level market teams are at a disadvantage, and I don't think it'll ever change, unfortunately, Bob.
Yeah, I'm not so sure there will ever be a salary cap in the game of baseball. Baseball has tried to do competitive balance issues. Every team now is only allowed 4 farm teams. The Yankees used to have 10. The Dodgers used to have 9 or 10. Now every team's only allowed 4. Every team is only allowed 165 athletes in their system to equal the playing field in that regard. International signing bonus pool money is all the same, so that the big market teams can't corner the market internationally like they can still in free agency. So there's a number of things that have been put in place to try to create competitive balance in our sport. It all comes down to who scouts better, who develops better, who's more efficient, who's more effective and intelligent. And I will say this every time I have a microphone in front of me. The last 12 years in Major League Baseball, we have the 3rd most wins in all of Major League Baseball. The Dodgers and Yankees are the only 2 teams to have more wins than us in the last 12 years. And the Yankees only have 21 more wins than us in a total of 12 years. And they've spent $1.5 billion more on players than we have. So that shows you that Chris and Cherney and Matt and the crew, they know what they're doing.
Bob, always a pleasure, my
Thank you,
friend.
Bruce.
It's always fun, buddy.
It can't be opening day without you and I talking history of baseball.
It's so much fun always. Bob DiBiasio. Let's hear it for Bobby D over here, and Vice President of the Tribe. All right,
Thank
you have
sir.
a great day. Great to see Penny, too. It's been a long time. Great to see her.
Happy opening day.
She looks so much better than you.
Well, of course.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby D. You have a great day. The sun is out again.
Yeah.
So I'll put it. See my Guardians.
I like
See
that.
my Guardians.
I like that.
My sunglasses.
The Jim Beam working.
Yeah, it will be if it gets colder, I'll tell you that. Thanks, Bob. All right, Ryan, good stuff with Bobby D and Matt Foreman, the assistant general manager of the Cleveland Guardians. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We've got much more as we are celebrating opening day with the Cleveland Guardians. Kaulig Companies, we're so proud to be a part of the Kaulig Companies team. We're going to be talking about their big golf outing coming up again at Firestone. We're going to be part of that as well. So a lot more to come from opening day downtown Cleveland. All right, we're back. Kaulig Company's location here by Thirsty Parrot outside left center field. As we continue our programming here on the Big Play Sports Network, I'm Bruce Drennan along with Ryan Smith. Our thanks to Bob DiBiasio joining us as he always does with me throughout all the different stations, TV, radio, throughout my career, reminiscing, talking baseball history and Cleveland history. Always a lot of fun. we have, I did some research for you. Historically, the Cleveland Indians, now Guardians, on open for home openers, have a record of 58 and 54. Now, the most runs that the Indians or Guardians ever scored was 1997 for the home opener. We beat the Anaheim Angels, as they were known then, 15-3. The most runs that the Indians, Guardians, have ever given up in the home opener was 15. We lost 15-10 to the Chicago White Sox, same team we're opening up against today, and that was in 2011. In 2007, we had a snow out as the game, and that was that was a very historic year too, because our former great manager, Mike Hargrove, was the manager that year of the Seattle Mariners, and that's who we opened up against, was Seattle. And it was snowing. And so we had to postpone the game, and we couldn't open up here at home. So, and the snow persisted, and it was terrible weather thereafter. The Indians actually, you'll recall, opened up the home portion of the schedule in Milwaukee, the home of the Milwaukee Brewers, and we actually played the LA Angels, and we won that game 7-6. Amazing. And by the way, since this facility opened in 1994, we have played the Chicago White Sox in the home opener 8 times. We've played Seattle twice, Minnesota 5 times, the New York Yankees twice, the Anaheim LA Angels 3 times, the Kansas City Royals 4 times, Texas twice, Toronto twice, Detroit once, Boston once, and San Francisco once. There have been 20 shutouts in the history of home openers involving the Indians, now Guardians. Our record in all of those shutouts is 11 wins and 9 losses. There have been 37 one-run games in home openers for the Indians Guardians, and our record is 22 wins and 15 losses. And there have been 29 blowouts, and our record in those blowouts is 13 wins and 16 losses. So, a little bit of tidbit for you there. By the way, I'd mentioned Kaulig companies. I want to acknowledge Matt himself will be strolling in here shortly, and he's great. We're so proud that we are affiliated with Matt. He's allowed us to be part of his team, especially with his upcoming golf championship, June 18th through the 22nd at Firestone South. Be welcoming once again all the great seniors from around the world will be there, and we are honored at the Big Play Sports Network to be named again the media sponsor for that great event with the Kaulig companies. We also want you to join us at the championships at Firestone at the Kaulig Infinity Zone. Happy hour drink specials will be featured, food trucks, a cigar lounge, hands-on interactive fan experiences, and on June 20th, entertainment provided by the Folds of Honor with a special military appreciation concert and performances by country artist Connor Smith and the Shootouts. Visit KauligChampionship.com for ticket information. KauligChampionship.com. Now, getting back to opening day, Today, the gates will be opening at 2 p.m. to the general public. The first pitch is going to be thrown out by Jack Sawyer, the national championship defensive lineman of our Ohio State Buckeyes. And he will be throwing that first pitch. His catcher will be Steve Colavito, the son of Rocky Colavito, who passed this past year, and the Guardians are going to be honoring him. It is also, as Bobby D pointed out, the 50-year anniversary of Frank Robinson becoming the first black manager in Major League history. He's going to be honored this year. Frank, his wife, Barbara, and daughter, Nichelle Robinson, will deliver the lineup card representing the Cleveland Guardians. Lawrence John Jack Dolan will be, in memory of his grandfather, will hand off the official game ball on the mound. Of course, Larry, the owner of the team, who just passed away recently. Larry, of course, buying the franchise from the late Dick Jacobs. Members of the Cleveland Orchestra will perform the national anthem. There's going to be a flyover by the 910th Airlift Wing from the Youngstown Air Reserve Station. Dorian Pace will be honored. He's the Cleveland Heights bus driver who helped save 15 students from a bus fire. So just some of the festivities surrounding opening day here today at Progressive Field. Now, also renovations. I didn't get into this with Bobby D because, quite frankly, I wanted to talk to him about the history of the franchise in baseball, but they have made unbelievable renovations here last offseason, this offseason, and they're going to continue to do so in the upcoming offseason at the end of this 25 campaign. Terrence Hall. It's a modern, reimagined beer hall featuring stylish indoor-outdoor spaces. The new North Coast social area, open-air terrace box seating will be the exclusive indoor lounge is going to be featured. Guardians team store was opened this morning at 10 o'clock for opening day. And food, unique different food. A Guardian burger, which is beef patty. Get this now, Ryan. Excuse me. A beef patty with salami, pepperoni, provolone cheese, lettuce, pickled onion. Excuse me, I'm trying to shake this cold. Hot banana peppers and herb vinaigrette. I'd be incapacitated for a week. Best damn cheesesteak, as they term it. Spicy pepperoni flatbread, mozzarella, pepperoni, pickled jalapeno, hot honey, and pizza sauce. I'd be incapacitated for 2 weeks if I went for that one. The new Terrace Hall. That is going to be mozzarella sandwiches, fried pickles, turkey leg drumsticks, fried bologna sandwiches, all featured, and new concession stands all over the ballpark. Now, here's a tidbit for you, which you may find interesting. The coldest home opener ever was 1907, April the 18th at League Park. It was 36 degrees. 1979, that was on April the 7th, Cleveland Municipal Stadium, 39 degrees. 2016, April 5th, Progressive Field, 34 degrees. What's the temperature now?
I gotta guess, Bruce. I think it's Let me look at my phone. 32 as we speak. 32 degrees.
32 degrees. This may go down historically as the coldest opening day in the history of home openers.
I'll tell you what, Bruce, this is going to be one that I certainly will never forget.
What's that?
I said this will certainly be one that I will never forget.
Bobby told me that they might have considered delaying the Kaulig time, but the weather's not supposed to be much better tomorrow. So that's why. The warmest home openers ever in 1899 on May 1st at League Park, it was 84 degrees. In 1948, that last year the Indians won the World Championship. On April 20th at Cleveland Municipal Stadium, it was 79 degrees. And in the year 2000, on April the 14th, here at Progressive Field, it was 72 degrees. So there you have it. Patty from Channel 8. Great to see you, Patty. Yeah, so there you have it. By the way, we're going to be doing our normal show tomorrow. I want to remind everybody that we'll be previewing the Masters. That's going to be Mike Yeager, the head golf professional at Columbia Hills Country Club, where I'm a proud member. We'll be previewing the Masters, which begins on Thursday. You don't want to miss that. More on the NFL draft. Also, in a couple of weeks, we'll be previewing the draft, of course, on an upcoming version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. And we'll be previewing the Kentucky Derby. That's always the first Saturday in May. And one of our owners, Ken Miles, owns racehorses, had Seize the Gray last year, who won the Preakness. And I think you'll find it very fascinating and interesting that when we have Ken on to talk about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that you may not be aware of when it comes to horse racing. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll come back here from our location with Kaulig Company's location at Thirsty Parrot, wrap my portion of the pregame festivities up in just a moment here on the Big Play Sports Network. All right, back outside the Thirsty Parrot, our location, thanks to the Kaulig companies for our Big Play Sports Network. Joining me now, Nick Padone from our network, very familiar face and voice, and does all kinds of shows, and also does a lot of the front office's responsibilities. I want to thank the Kaulig companies. I acknowledge them, and also talked about the big golf outing again with the seniors coming up in June.
Bruce, we had a blast there last year, didn't we, man? It was a good time. And this is awesome. You know, being from Cleveland, obviously Matt Kaulig, such a figure in the community, and then getting the invitation to do this, you know, with you and with all of the shows here today, like, it's awesome. It's an awesome way to celebrate opening day in Cleveland, and this is an organization that deserves it. You know, coming off playoffs, like, this is just a great day.
Yeah, and we also want to acknowledge what a coup it is that we have added Carlos Baerga to our staff.
Fun, really fun. It's crazy, Bruce. Like, when you got involved, I was like, wow, like, Bruce Drennan's coming on to Big Play. Like, not like all of these people that continue to come on, I'm like, we're building it out, man. Like, it's been very cool. It's been very fun. I think, like, Dave deserves really all the love in the world, like, just because he's everywhere and everywhere loves him. And I feel like when you have somebody like that at the top, it just makes everybody want to gravitate towards Big Play, be a part of Big Play. Like, we're having a ton of fun with it.
Yeah, Josh and Maria were hearing on the air earlier.
What a blast. Maria's ready to get past this April 24th NFL draft. She's had enough. She's fed up with Josh. She's fed up with Ryan. Too funny.
I certainly am thrilled to be part of another opening day. I've had a few now.
You have.
There's been a few. Having Bobby D on and reminiscing and nostalgic and all about all the past opening days and the great memories of Cleveland opening home opener festivities and all, and we've come a long, long way, that's for sure. Also, we had Matt Foreman on, the assistant general manager
was awesome.
of the team, who, really, that's the first time I interviewed him, by the way, Nick, and really enjoyed it thoroughly. So what do you think of the team this year?
You know, I think I'm more optimistic than most, Bruce. Seriously, I felt like, you know, they won 92 games last year. Vegas puts these win totals out, 82 games. I kind of thought that was a little disrespectful on the onset when I first looked at it. I thought they were going to be able to replace Jimenez and Naylor. This first week hasn't gone the way that I would have loved it to go, but I ultimately believe in this organization. I think time and time again, unlike some of the other organizations in town, they've provided a watchable product for my entire life. Bruce, think about that. I'm 26 years old. Over the last 26 years, it's rarely been really bad baseball. At worst, it's been mediocre, and at best, it was World Series baseball. So I'm optimistic because I have faith in this organization, and I really think it's a good team with most holdovers from last year and a lot of young players.
Well, 80-some wins may be enough. This division, think of this. Last year, going into the season, this was considered, the Central was considered by far the weakest division in the major leagues. Certainly didn't turn out that way.
Yeah.
3 teams made the playoffs. It was incredibly competitive. And a 4th team who didn't make the playoffs, Minnesota, still finished above the 500 mark.
Yeah.
So, indeed, with still the imbalanced schedule, you're going to be playing your own divisional foes more than anybody else. They could knock the heck out of each other, and 80-some wins may be enough this year, Nick.
And I'm looking forward to, Bruce, these next 2 series. Like, I think that, I get the scheduling and why they needed to go out west, but that was brutal. I mean, the Padres right now are one of the hottest teams in baseball. I think the Angels are much improved. So I think getting back here in Cleveland and these 2 back-to-back series against AL Central opponents is going to be big. You've got the White Sox, who were really bad last year, and then coming up KC, I believe, and I think you do as well, you're just a better team than the Royals. You should be able to handle both of these series, and that's how you ease into an MLB season. It sucks what happened out west, but I think getting back here will be good for them.
Yeah, and the Tigers are off to a good start, but Kansas City, and you look at the entire major leagues, except for that great start that the Dodgers, look at the Atlanta Braves.
Who saw that coming?
Unbelievable.
Who saw that coming? Some people thought that they could win that division, and then to start
I predicted them.
Yeah, and to start out winless, I mean, that's, punching upwards the whole rest of the way. So it's baseball. It's unpredictable. It's why we love this sport.
Right.
It's why really we pull so hard just to make the playoffs every year, because once you get in there, anything could happen. It's unlike anything else.
it's the most unpredictable of the four major sports.
For sure.
You just don't know, even within the game itself. And and there's some new play. I think the emergence of this kid Manzardo is going to be exciting to watch. He's the real deal. He really takes a nice cut at the ball. He doesn't get cheated at the plate. He's fun to watch. He's got great power, and he generates such bat speed. He's going to hit a lot of long balls for the Cleveland organization.
Bruce, I got to say, speaking of a guy that's going to hit a lot of long balls, and I want your input on this, Travis Bazzana. I don't think that it's going to be this year. I know that he's young. I know they're going to wait until he's 100% ready. But have you seen what this kid's doing in the minors so far? Already hitting mashing a couple homers down there in Double-A Akron. I have a ton of reason to be beyond optimistic about Travis Bazzana, and I think he could be one of those players, Bruce, that has a little bit of swag, that's kind of this new era, what the Padres have in Tatis and Jackson Merrill, and I think the rest of the team really vibes off that.
Yeah, I do. I'm excited about him, too, and you know, the trading of Jimenez ties in with this. Part of the A mid-level franchise can't afford to pay $16-18 million a year for a Golden Glove second baseman that doesn't hit.
Correct.
And it's been 2 years removed since he did have that very balanced offensive year. So, and I'm glad to see he's off to a good start with Toronto so far, but we'll see if it lasts. But the point is, it's merely biding our time for this 25 campaign, because I'm pretty sure this Bazzana is going to be here next opening day.
I believe so too, and I love it, and I'm excited about it, and I think everybody in Cleveland loved Jimenez, and he really kind of worked his way into becoming a fan favorite here over the last couple of seasons. But we know what it is, and we know that we had the number one pick. We decided that this was the best player in the draft, and we called our shot because the guards believe that Travis Bazzana is a player that can transcend not just the position, but their entire organization and take them to a new level as a hitter offensively. So I'm optimistic about that. And not to mention, Bruce, they've got a couple other middle infielders in the system. I'm still eager to see what Juan Brito could do, probably at some point this season.
He's a switch hitter with power,
which I'm a fan of, and I'm looking forward to seeing his arrival in Cleveland. So there was just a lot going on in that middle infield. So I understood that trade.
And DeLauder too is a guy that's hurt right now. But when I was talking to Foreman, the assistant GM, he actually said I said to him, it sounds to me what you're saying, that he was major league ready and that had not gotten hurt, he would be on this roster for the home opener, and he agreed. This DeLauder is right on the verge.
Wow, and that's exciting because you look at this outfield. I have to feel for this year. I'm saying you have to feel really good about Stephen Kwan. Center field might be a little bit of a mixed bag. We'll see if Lane Thomas can turn it on. We'll see if Lane Thomas could maybe be a trade chip at some point later in the season. And then right field, the platooning of Big Christmas is to be seen. But Chase DeLauder, if he could get up to Cleveland healthy and provide some pop next to Stephen Kwan, that's a 1-2 punch out there.
Well, the Nolan Jones acquisition is interesting because now, Jones has struggled against lefties.
Yes.
So you hit him against the righties. Noel has struggled against righties, so you hit him against the lefties. But I actually am high on Lane Thomas. When he first was acquired last year, and he got up to that terrible start, you'll recall, and everybody's trashing the organization. I said, listen, this guy's a ball player.
Yep.
Just give him some time. I tried to get him on my fantasy team. I got outbid. That's how much I liked him.
Yeah.
And I knew about him in Washington. And sure enough, he caught fire, and he was arguably the most effective player in the postseason.
And you could argue that he saved the season multiple times throughout that playoff run. So that trade made a ton of sense at the time because you needed just any sort of help in center field.
Excellent defensively,
and he provided that. And that was the one concern that people had when Miles Straw was no longer with the club was while he couldn't hit his way out of a wet paper bag, the defense was really good.
Yes.
So people were concerned about a bit of a fall off. And Lane Thomas, I can't think of one gaffe that he's had out there.
I mentioned this with the guests earlier too. I'm a little concerned though about the bullpen.
Yeah.
Because I consider this the best bullpen in baseball. It certainly statistically was last year. There's no argument about it.
For sure.
But they were worked a lot too. And I've always said get the game into the 5th, 6th inning, let that pen take over. But you can't do that every single game, Nick. And it showed maybe in the postseason, it caught up to him a little bit. I'm not so concerned about Clase with the slow start this year. He's still, arguably the best closer in the business. But you get my point.
Yeah.
The bullpen can't be overworked, which means you need a little more length out of that starting rotation.
You absolutely need it. And I think that's why a lot of people were excited about the opportunity of Luis Ortiz being your 3 guy. Like that was thought to be an improvement. And I think he will figure it out with this new organization and our pitching staff, which is, bar none in the majors. I'm excited about it, Bruce. I really am.
Yeah, and we'll see with these starters like Ortiz. He had that tremendous outing against the Guardians last year when he was a member of the Pirates. And then, so he comes over here to the American League. He's just getting his feet wet a little bit. Give him some time. Obviously, I'm glad to see Gavin Williams back healthy.
Yes, I think he could be a big piece, and he could be a big piece. Like if you look at this season and how this team replicates what they do last year and make a run, and now make a run at a New York Yankees without Juan Soto and some of the certainty in that division with the Red Sox, you see a path towards a World Series. Gavin Williams has to be a big piece in that.
Yeah, no question about it, and certainly Bieber being a little ahead of schedule in his rehab is also very encouraging. I mean, my goodness, when you think about last year, and he had those first 2 outings and was absolutely overwhelmingly dominant and looked like his Cy Young year, 2 tremendous performances. And all of a sudden, we get the news he's got to go to Tommy John.
Yep, and I it was one of those things, and it's probably just because I'm still young in my career, Bruce. I'll have to say, in this media thing, I feel like I'm just kind of starting to ascend. I remember a time and place of where I was when I learned that news about Shane Bieber. I was absolutely stunned. He was lights out dominant throughout 2 games. He had a little campaign brewing for American League Cy Youngs that early in the season. That's how good those first 2 outings were. And then out of nowhere, Tommy John surgery, and it hurt the team last year. And thankfully, you were able to get big innings out of Boyd, and Alex Cobb tried to come in at the end, and Ben Lively was an unheralded hero.
Yes.
But that Bieber injury did hurt, and it was just such a surprise and out of nowhere.
Well, it's going to be when he does come back, and if he can resemble his old self, it's going to be like making a trade without having to give anybody up.
Yeah.
And you're getting a real quality pitcher. And as I said earlier, the Yankees didn't have Cole last year until the All-Star break.
Yep.
And so I'd rather
And what a jolt that gave them, by the way.
No question about it. And so I'd rather have a Bieber not overworked to come back, maybe right before the All-Star break and be fresh in that second half when we really probably will need him the most, and especially in the postseason should we qualify.
And it's crazy as well. I think there's something to be said about the fact that he is a guy that was an MLB All-Star MVP, a Cy Young Award winner. I think, Bruce, his presence in that rotation on a consistent basis, these pitchers are smart guys. They're cerebral. I think that's going to be such a good thing for Tanner Bybee, for Gavin Williams, hell, probably even for Ortiz, who's a bit older, to just see how Shane works day in and day out. I think his presence is going to be a welcome addition whenever it happens, whether it's June, whether it's July. Obviously, we want him back and healthy, but I think it's going to be a big addition when he's back.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I see Ken Miles is showing up, one of our owners. My goodness, I want to get him up here now, too. So, not that I'm kicking you off, Nick.
I could grab him.
But that's indeed what I am doing.
I could grab him. Bruce, I appreciate you having me up here.
Love you, buddy. Go grab him for me. We'll take a break. We'll come right back, and I want to feature Ken before I pass the baton on. Nick Padone, everybody. We'll be back in a minute as our opening day coverage continues from the Thirsty Parrot, part of the Kaulig Company's team here on opening day. right, we're back right outside the Thirsty Parrot with our location, thanks to the Kaulig Company's team, and outside of left center field, Ken Miles, one of our owners of the Big Play Sports Network, has just arrived, and I'm glad you did so in time and get you on before I pass the baton. How you doing?
Great to be here in this football weather.
I know. I went through the coldest historically.
I know. I heard.
This is probably going to break the record.
Break the record.
Now, you're coming back from Dubai.
Dubai, we came in just to be on the air with you, Bruce. It was a 17-hour flight, but let me tell you something, that Emirates Airlines, if you want to fly first rate, Emirates Air is off the charts. 17 hours.
More so than Frontier?
Yeah, a little bit better.
How'd your horse do?
Well, unfortunately, we had a little rough road. This was the Dubai Classic. Some of the top horses in the world were running, and Straight No Chaser was the favorite in the race. If we would have won, we would have been deemed the fastest sprinter in the world. And everything was great right up until the starting gate, and then he stumbled coming out, actually hurt his leg. Nothing serious, but we didn't have the finish we wanted.
Oh, that's a shame. Now, does he get a second chance? Or?
No, this is, the World Cup is held every year in Dubai, the World Classics. It could be a chance he's invited next year, but I think based with Straight No Chaser, he's 5 years old, this might be time for him to go to his next career, which will be a stallion. And I think he's probably looking forward to that.
Now, you've got a horse you're excited about that was the Bluegrass already run?
The Bluegrass, we actually passed on it last minute. Wayne Lucas, world-class trainer, decided he was going to run next Saturday at Oaklawn. So Mary and I are going to head to Arkansas to see Caldera run.
Now, if he does well there, does he have a chance of qualifying for the Derby?
Got a chance of qualifying for the Derby, but Wayne is thinking we might have a better shot of heading to the Preakness with Caldera. For those that follow horse racing, they know. For others, not so much. But Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and Belmont are just for 3-year-olds, so you get one shot at it. And the top 20 horses that are 3-year-olds go to the Derby. The next level go to the Preakness because it's only 2 weeks later. And so Wayne's strategy is let's shoot for the Preakness and try and win it again like we did last year with Seize the Gray.
Yeah, what an accomplishment. And I saw that trophy. Ken and his lovely wife, Mary, have a home in Naples at Teresa Bay, and my wife and I went and we played golf and with Ken and Mary, and Jackie just came along. She doesn't play, but what a place. And we went to your home and we saw the Preakness trophy. Words can't describe how gorgeous it is. And they've got it in their dining room on this table with light shining down. It's gorgeous. Yeah. Keeping that thing clean has got to be a project.
Yeah, it's 100% sterling silver, so you got to worry about tarnishing it. Tarnish on it, but you never get tired of looking at it. And by the way, I got to say, Bruce and his wife Jackie did come and visit us at Treviso Bay, and Bruce is an avid golfer. We go to Treviso Bay, which is a spectacular TPC course, one of the hardest courses in Naples, and Bruce just lights it up. Embarrasses me on my home course. The guy's a definite golfer. I'm not so sure about that handicap. He might have sandbagged me for $5.
His wife, we should see his wife, Mary. She's a very competitive. How did she do in that outing the next day, then?
Yeah, she did. She did really well. I'm proud of her.
She's a good player.
She's a competitor.
Swing. Beautiful swing. Well, here we are at Big Play, and I've been here a while. I had the assistant GM of the Guardians on, Bobby D, came, and he was featured here live with us. Nice addition with Carlos Baerga to our team.
Yeah, Carlos Baerga. In fact, I think about opening days with Carlos Baerga and that crew. And, you know, when you think about opening days, Bruce, one of the things that just brings back a lot of memories, you know, coming when you're a kid with your family or your dad, and then, you know, we're going through the teams in the 90s and all the guys. And the first game ever at Jacobs Field at the time, incredible. But, yeah, Carlos is one of those guys. He's an iconic player, and we're happy to have him, much like you, Bruce, on the Big Play Network.
Well, we have a great lineup now. Josh and Maria were here earlier today before you arrived. And, Big Play's cooking, and we've got the Masters coming up. I'm going to be doing a show tomorrow. Looking forward to that. The NFL Draft, of course, and then the Kentucky Derby. I want to have you on again because when we were visiting Ken and his wife Mary, he was giving us some of the behind-the-scenes stuff on horse racing. I was mesmerized. I mean, I was fascinated on what goes into it. And the general public, I don't think has a clue unless you're really into it.
No, it is fascinating. Most people just know of horse racing as the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont Stakes. But there's, it's like anything else. If you're passionate about the sport, there's so much to it. It's a phenomenal sport. People criticize that don't know any better, criticize us for racing thoroughbreds. In the wild, that's what these horses want to do, and that's what they're bred to do. And they're treated like kings and queens, and it's really fascinating, and I love talking about it, and I love that you and Jackie were so interested.
Yeah, and we're going to have Ken on. Like I say, it's always the first Saturday in May that the Derby will be staged, and even though your horse, what is it, Caldera? Caldera. So we'll be looking forward maybe for the Preakness. Anything else you want to say here with Big Play launching here at the home opener? And we're also, I promoted earlier, we're going to be part of the Kaulig Company's championship again.
Championship again, PGA Championship out at Firestone, and Matt Kaulig and the group over at Kaulig. I can't say enough about them. You're really iconic, and Matt's he's an owner of the Guardians, and love to see how the future plays out and what role Matt might have. But he just does so much for the community. In fact, we just recently, there's people that come here. Everybody comes here and they yell Bruce. I don't hear anybody yelling Ken. Bruce is a legend, man. He is a legend.
How you doing?
Look
Good
at the
Happy opening day.
people flocking around Bruce. Let's hear it for Bruce Stratton. So one of the things we're really happy about in terms of our partnership with the Kauligs is Matt is very well known in the NASCAR circuit. He has 2 teams that race NASCAR, right, and I think 2 or 3 teams in the Xfinity Series. And we now do a segment every Monday with Ty Dillon, and we're going to start doing much more with NASCAR and Kaulig Company. So we're really excited about that.
That's great. We're looking forward to it. That's in June. That we'll be going down to Firestone South again, and we'll be probably conducting programs like we do.
In fact, now that I think about it, I played with Bruce on Firestone last year, and if I recall, he took me for a few credits back then as well.
That's my favorite of the 3, Firestone North.
Yes.
The big boys were on South, but North has got all the water. I love it. Ken, thanks so much for joining us, partner.
Thanks for having. Always a pleasure.
Welcome back home from Dubai, as he had a great flight on Frontier Airlines getting here. So we will see a lot more of Ken, like I say, in a couple of weeks prior to the Derby. That's about all for my portion of our coverage here in the home opener, part of the Kaulig Company's coverage here at the Thirsty Parrot. Come and see all of our personalities. We'll be here all afternoon, and certainly want to appreciate Kaulig for inviting all of us once again. I'm Bruce Drennan. I'll be conducting my own show tomorrow, the Bonus Time with Drennan program. You don't want to miss that. We got to preview the Masters for you. So until then, as always, and most importantly, stay tuned here to Big Play. Much more to come. But until then, as always, and most importantly, I love you, Ohio, and I love you, Cleveland.